What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? Today we are finishing up with Godless Iowan's interview. So if you haven't seen his previous installments of the interview, they will be linked down below. So if you want to go and check those out, those are great discussions. Today, though, we're going to be covering a number of topics, but before we get into that, I just want to let you guys know about the Faithless Forum. I know I've mentioned it a few times, but I just wanted to let you guys know about it because it is coming up here in April, on April 7th in Dallas, Texas. So if you want to get tickets, the links are down below. Also, make sure you subscribe to Godless Iowan. That's the whole reason why we're here, right? Go and subscribe to him. Another thing is that I've got some of these beanies on the way. So if you would like a beanie, be sure to let me know down below so that, you know, I can know whether or not I'm going to have enough. If anybody wants any or whatnot. I've already sold 2 in sort of like pre-order sales. So if you want a chance to get your own Godless Engineer beanie, let me know. Today on Godless Iowan's interview, we're going to be covering a number of topics. One being is religious parenting abuse. Then we're going to be discussing, you know, what changed most about him after he left his faith. He's going to give some really good advice for people that are new atheists or maybe questioning. And he's going to answer the age-old thing of, you weren't a real Christian, as well as give us some insight to the meaning of life for an atheist. So, if any of that interests you, please stay tuned. Now, speaking about, you know, atheists that have this irrational fear of hell still, even after leaving their faith, do you consider like religion or religious parents in general to be kind of like child abuse? Or do you think that it's a bit more nuanced?
I think it's abuse, but I think it's a lot of times an abuse that they don't realize they're doing because they were just as abused. Um, you know, for generations, it was perfectly normal for people to spank their kids because they had been spanked, their parents had been spanked, their grandparents had been spanked, and all that. And you know, now we've come to an idea that, you know, maybe hitting people is not that normal. And we've kind of moved away from that, but it's the same kind of thing with deep religious indoctrination. I love my parents. I can't blame them for how they raised me. They raised me in the same way they were raised. But it definitely is a form of abuse.
No, yeah, I would agree too. I think that, well, I guess in most of the ways that people indoctrinate their kids now, it can be very abusive. Being in the northern part of Alabama, though, I see a lot of religious parents that, you know, don't necessarily push their religion on their kids, that have a little bit more laxed view of it. So, but I still think that telling your kids what to believe is pretty detrimental to them. So, do you think that the more like progressive or less, I guess, evangelistic Christians, do you still find that as abusive, or do you think that that's a little bit better?
It's maybe not as abusive to children, but from my own experience, I kind of call progressive Christianity the gateway drug to fundamentalism. Because I had, when I was a minister, a lot of liberal Christians come to my church, and they would be like, "Well, you guys preach this as if it's real," and I'd be like, "Yeah, well, we believe that the Bible is real." "Oh, well, you know, I'm going to start coming to this church because, you know, I just don't get this feeling at my church." And so, I think it's still is kind of a form of indoctrination. It readies the mind for deeper delusion,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's quite as bad.
Right. Okay. You know, speaking of you know, how it preps the mind and everything like that, I'm wondering if you could sort of do a retrospective. You know, how you are now, like how you feel about certain topics or whatnot versus how you felt about them when you were a minister and kind of deep into the faith. I mean, is that like a very radical change there, or are you different on a lot of subjects, or what's that like?
I campaigned for Ron Paul when I was a minister. I was very much a conservative, very deep conservative and religious evangelical voter. Today, I am fairly far left, not not complete left wing, but I'm very much liberal. I have no problem with gay marriage. I think that we should probably get religion out of schools completely. And, just about any topic that you would ask me, uh, my viewpoint has changed quite a bit.
Okay. So, for you, what was it like, leaving the faith and going through that radical change? Was it like, did it feel like a weight had been lifted off your shoulders, or did you not really feel a big difference?
At first it felt kind of bad because there would be a lot of times where I would start to make a comment and I would realize, well, but do I actually believe that, or is that just something that I'm saying because that's how I was taught? And I had to, go back and do my research and actually figure out what my stances were on things. But today, I feel a lot more free. I like to say that I swear a whole lot more, and I drink a whole lot less.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know what, like, when I left the faith, like, I felt a giant weight being lifted off my shoulders because I had all this guilt about not being a good Christian, about not going to church, not believing in God as much as I thought that I should have. And so, I mean, like, that's kind of what I went through. But, I guess that's kind of part of the feeling bad that you were talking about there, like feeling bad that you weren't, like you should be. I guess is kind of the mindset. Not that you should have been any certain way, but you felt like you should have been a certain way.
And not just that, but I came away from the faith, and there was that burden, not feeling burdened by the faith, but then I had to also deal with the guilt and regret for some of the things that I had taught for so many years. I have a cousin who is gay, and he sat in one of my sermons when I preached against homosexuality, and he told me that that was the reason why it took him an extra 3 years to come out of the closet to everyone, was because my sermon had closet afraid that there was something wrong with him.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of regret that you feel when you're a minister and coming away from the faith, that maybe is a little different than just someone who leaves the faith. Does that make sense?
Oh no, yeah, it totally does. Because I mean, you guys are the ones that are pushing the ideas and teaching people, how they should feel about certain subjects and what their God says about certain subjects. And I mean, that's a really big point in a lot of the things that we see today. People using religion, people using God to push their own agendas. And not necessarily that you had your own agenda, you thought that you were supporting God's agenda. And I think
Yeah.
that maybe that's what a lot of people do now. Just, I don't know, do you think that someone's biases like really inform how they interpret the Bible, or what do you think that's like?
Um, I think I think it goes both ways. I think that some people are just genuinely good people, and they're going to react to the world in the way that they think's best, and they're not going to support the more dangerous dogma. I think other people, uh, they've been they've been scared straight, I guess is the way to put it. Not, they've been told all of this stuff is going to send you to hell, so you better teach it and believe it this way. And so regardless of what their own personal feelings are, they're just going to do what the Bible says, I guess.
As an atheist, what would be your best advice for somebody that is like deep into the faith, but they're questioning their faith? Like, what kind of advice can you give to them about that?
Well, It's going to be a little bit different than what a lot of people think it is. When I left the faith, I wanted to see the most blasphemous stuff that I possibly could on YouTube. I wanted to see people take down religion and see the other side, what other people believe, that it is just a bunch of garbage and it's stupid for the most part. So, seek that stuff out. Don't worry. It's going to feel sinful. It's going to feel awful. It's going to feel like you're sending yourself to hell. But those feelings are going to go away eventually. And if you push through and you see, logic and reason for what it is, you're going to be a better person in the end.
Okay, no, I think that's really good advice right there. Now, I'm wondering, well, for the new atheist that's coming out, what kind of advice can you give to them?
Just don't take shit. no, uh, there's going to be times where you have to, maneuver around situations, whether that be work or school or things like that. But a lot of times, the reason why they're telling you to shut up is because your argument is solid, and they don't like to hear those arguments.
Yeah, they really don't. Especially the flat earthers, they don't like hearing rational arguments.
Suck my balls.
Suck my balls, bitch! Forcefully suck my balls. I don't give a
Yeah.
shit.
Why don't you
Now,
take a straw and suck my dick through that straw?
God damn. Oh man. So um I'm kind of curious. One of the things that a lot of religious people throw at atheists in general, not just new atheists, but is you weren't a real Christian. So I'm kind of curious, what do you think about that thing being lobbied at you personally or atheists in general?
If I wasn't a real Christian, then there's no such thing as a real Christian out there. I can tell you that when I started having my doubts, I didn't want my doubts. I wanted God to show himself to me. I prayed, I fasted, I read the Bible, I did every single thing that I could possibly think to do. I read all kinds of devotionals, and I just tried to get God to reveal himself, and it never happened. Once my doubts entered the picture, it just went away. And if I wasn't a Christian, then you aren't either.
Yeah, that's a really good response right there. I think because I mean, who's out there to tell who is a real Christian? Of course, everybody in a denomination seems to think that nobody else is a real Christian, though.
Yeah, I want them to think about that too. Is if you say that your denomination is right and you're in one of these more modern denominations, what you're saying is everyone up till the 1890s, they were wrong, but you got it right. Somehow you figured it out. That doesn't make any sense.
It really doesn't. um, what do you say about the whole atheists don't have any meaning to their life? Like this has been something that gets thrown out regularly, is that there's just no meaning for the life of an atheist.
You know what? My meaning is to learn, to love people, and to do as much as possible to help people, and that's what makes me feel good. What else do you need for meaning? I love my family. I love my friends. I have more than enough going on in my life to keep me busy. When I was in the religious faith, I had no meaning. There was no meaning to life other than to be a drone for God.
Yeah, it's weird how they kind of flip that on us because, in the faith, religious people think that there's this eternity after life, and so this life right here
So
doesn't really mean anything.
yeah, okay. So this is gonna bring my nerd out a little bit, but do you guys watch Star Trek?
Yes.
Okay, so I see the atheist community as a lot like Starfleet. There's still a lot of strife. There's a lot of issues in between different atheists, but we're working together to try and make a better future for our kids and things like that. Whereas I see a lot of the religious community as the Borg.
That's a good way. I could just see someone being like, resistance is futile.
We are Borg.
Yeah.
Resistance is futile. You will cut off your penis skin.
Well, yeah, Casey said that she's called the Catholics the Borg for a long time. Oh
I'm
yeah,
not alone. Yes.
she's got a comm badge tattoo as well. That's how deep she is into Star Trek.
Okay, I've not done this, but would you like to see my tattoo?
Yeah,
It's awful.
it's
I
awful.
got this because I thought it was going to bring me closer to God.
Oh wow, John 3:16. It looks like a prison tat. What'd you do?
It was done by a friend.
Oh, okay.
Not smart. Not smart at all. And now I get to look at this every day in the mirror and remind myself, you used to be really fucking deluded.
You need to get that covered up. You know,
Yeah,
there's a
I
passage
plan
in the
on it.
Bible about that.
I know. I cherry picked that one out.
But they all do.
Yeah. I also like mixed fabric and seafood, so
Yeah. um so we've covered a lot of different subjects here today, and I think that you've given a lot of great advice for new atheists and whatnot. Now I'm wondering, like, what does the future look like for you and your activism here? Like, what do you hope to do? Like do you have any certain goals, or are you just trying to do better in general?
basically my goal is to be the kind of activist that I was looking for and I left the faith.
Hmm.
I want to be that person that someone can go to and can laugh about some of the things that they've gone through, and can, maybe be just that person you can say, I understand.
Okay. No. Yeah. I think that that's a really good way to go about it. I mean, that's what I want to do as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be like, this year. I'm really focusing on community building, and I've always tried to be a community builder, but I'm really trying to reach out and do things. So I think that that's really great that you want to be there like that.
I often say that atheist community is harder to put together, but the great thing is you actually like the people you're around.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, for the most part, there are some people out there that have gone off the deep end a little bit, but trying to mend those wounds, in 2018 is what I'm trying to do.
Yep.
Some of them are too far gone for bullshit, but uh, but anyways, Godless Iowan, I really appreciate you coming on today. Is there anything that you want to leave, like, a new atheist or an existing atheist or a religious person with today? Like, any final thoughts?
Um, just keep learning. The second you get out of the faith, grab the books that you've been told not to read, watch the movies that you've been told not to watch, and listen to the music that you've been told not to listen to. See for the world for yourself and see that it's not this evil, wicked, and horrific place that you've been told all your life, and just experience it and find good people to experience it with.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. And I mean, I have to say that when I was, coming into my atheism and whatnot, finding that kind of community was very important for me. So I definitely suggest that. Again, Godless Iowan, I really appreciate you joining me today. And I hope that everybody watching right now will go and subscribe to him. All of his links are in the description, both YouTube, Twitter, his blog, all that. Go and indulge in the Godless Iowan, and I guess we'll be seeing you heathens later.
Thank you very much, Godless Engineer. Just so you know, though, this video is exempted from the list. So,
Oh, okay. Darn, I thought I was gonna get video of the week.
I'm gonna beat you.
Oh, Casey's gonna beat me this week too.
I don't know what it's about yet.
well, I love you both, and thank you for being awesome.
Oh, thank you for being awesome. Thank you for coming on here. You and everybody that I interview really does me the favor, because I appreciate you guys so much for building up the community and really being part of the community. And so I can't wait to, take on, stupid religious arguments in the future with you.
Thank you. I can't wait.
Well, thank you, heathens, for joining in today. Don't forget to go down below, leave a comment on what you thought was the best part of this interview or in the previous part of the interview. And I would, both of us, both Godless Iowan and I, would love to know what you think. So leave those comments down below. While you're down there, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe if you like these kind of interviews. I guess we'll be seeing you heathens later, and don't forget to stand up and use your voice.